What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into this edition of Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Tim Hanna, and we've got a special show for you this week as we're currently in Bearcat Arena covering all things NCAA Division II Central Regional Tournament. And I know I look hot and sweaty, just like the players, probably not as much as they are because they just played a fantastic game. But first, before we get to all that, let's look at what went on Saturday as 4 games were in action all day covering the first round. Let's check those highlights out. In the first game of Saturday, East Central taking on Minnesota State Moorhead in a high-scoring affair between the number 3 and 6 seed. Right here, this shot by Ketchman to set them up to go into overtime, or excuse me, to win, but misses a little high off the glass. They would go to overtime, but East Central would just be too much for the well-coached team of Moorhead, as the more athletic Central team would dominate overtime and win this one 115-106. They would take on the winner of Southwest Minnesota State and Arkansas Tech. That game here, second game of Saturday, Southwest Minnesota State, the number 2 seed, came into this one as the favorite, but Arkansas Tech, a very athletic team, once again like we saw in the first round, a matchup of a fundamental team and a athletic team. And ultimately, though, Southwest Minnesota State would start to wear down Arkansas Tech and pull away from the Wonder Boys here. This game would end final 93-82, and they would go on to face East Central in the round of 32. Now on to Bearcat basketball in this one. Chris Buendalen finds Justin Pitts on the far side, and he drains a 3 there to put the Bearcats up 33-21. They would dominate most of this game over Upper Iowa, a team they saw earlier in the season. But Upper Iowa would not go away. 3-pointer there by Zach Schneider, extending the Bearcat lead. Upper Iowa, as I said, would stick in this one and give the Bearcats a dogfight as they'd go on a 7-0 run. Started off by this hard layup there on the left side to tie it at 52, and they would not go away here. Bearcats up 3. Zach Schneider playing great defense against Carson Parker. The fadeaway 3-pointer from the top of the key shocks Bearcat Arena, and everything goes silent. But in overtime, Justin Pitts does what he's done all season long, handles his defender, draining the 3 there, putting the Cats up by 6, and they would move on to play the winner of this one, defending D2 national champions, Augustana, in this one against Arkansas Monticello. This game would be another close one between a very athletic Monticello team and Augustana. Ultimately, though, Augustana would pull away, led by their point guard, Jordan Spencer. As there he drives, kicks outside. The 3-pointer from the corner takes a friendly Augustana bounce, and they would pull away in this one. What a weekend it was. We had 2 overtime games out of 4. A fantastic first round with lots of talented teams. Moving on to the second round on Sunday. Before we get to those games, let's take a look at the Bearcats as Max Moore caught up with members of the Northwest team to talk about their leadership, more specifically Zach Schneider and Justin Pitts. Max, take it away.
2 all-time Northwest Missouri State basketball records were broken on Saturday. Junior Justin Pitts broke the all-time scoring record with a free throw in Saturday's opening round matchup, and senior Zach Schneider became the program's all-time leader for most wins with 109. Both records are a testament to the culture the Bearcats have created since Coach Ben McCollum's hire in 2009. The team is centered around its motto, "Culture Wins." Pitts exemplifies the unselfishness of the culture.
I just found out, that's a big accomplishment for me as an individual, but right now I'm really not thinking about it. I'm just trying to ready to play and win the next game.
A good culture builds confidence among teams. That confidence is a key component in finishing games. Senior Devontae Mosby says his team's positivity helped keep his confidence during some clutch free throws.
They just reminded me that they're behind me. Justin came up to me and said, you have full confidence, full trust in your ability to shoot. Chris reminded me of the same thing, just telling me that he had me. And you can just hear that from the bench, hear that from all of our team and staff, just behind you, whether you mess up or whether you're making big plays. So.
The culture has helped the Bearcats to an impressive season so far, and they look to continue their winning ways through the rest of the NCAA tournament. Reporting for Bearcat Update, I'm Max Moore.
Thanks, Max. Now we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at all the games on Sunday and who's advanced to the final on Tuesday. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Bearcat Update with me, Tim Hanna. Before we get to the second round of games, the round of 32 in the Central Regional, let's take a quick look at some more Bearcat athletics as Morgan Jones caught up with members of the tennis team following their week against Washburn and then their weekend tournament in Springfield. Morgan, take it away.
After a split in the MIAA opener against Washburn, the Northwest men's tennis team moved on 3-1 on the year with the 7-3 victory, while the women's team fell 5-4. Tennis is one of the most underrated sports in the world. Freshman tennis player Tanya Terrell from Almeria, Spain, explains more about the unique sport.
Tennis is like a total of 3 sets. Every set is until 6, and if you have 6-6, you need to do a tie break. Every game, a different girl is serving, and different doubles and singles. There's 2 girls instead of 1 in every court, and you every time that you serve, need to serve 1 different girl of the couple.
Back in the fall, she was ranked 17th in the Central Region singles.
I worked more hard than them because before camp here, I need to do a preparation because I was freshman. So, my senior co-captain girl, she was with me all the time in the match. The last day that I lose, and it was a great experience, and it gave me belief that we can do something good this semester.
With all the hard work she puts in during practice, before each match, Tanya makes sure she is well rested.
I usually hear my favorite song. It's a Spanish song that talk about fight and never stop, and just try to relax and be ready for the match.
Transferring from Spain to Maryville, Missouri was something different for Terrell. However, she's getting well adjusted.
In Spain, I just play for myself, and here I need to play for a team. And it's very different, how you need to go for a team. If you lose, you need to think that your team can lose because of you, and this could be hard.
While in Spain, she was trying to go pro, but due to injuries, she was unable to make that happen, which led her here to play for Northwest.
And I get an injury, a very important injury, so I couldn't go again to the pros. So I just decided to get a scholarship here. I have a friend here, and he told me that this team is very good. So I just decided to come here because I know someone here.
Reporting for Bearcat Update, I am Morgan Jones.
Thanks, Morgan. We'll keep following the tennis team and their attempt to win 8 straight MIAA tournament titles. Now, let's take a look at another tournament, the NCAA Division II Central Regional Tournament, and the second round action on Sunday. Here's those highlights. In the first game of 2, East Central taking on Southwest Minnesota State, the number 2 versus the number 3 seed here. East Central, they would lead from the beginning for most of the game, led by Katie Moore and Braxton Reeves. Katie Moore had 21 points, 17 rebounds. But ultimately, Southwest Minnesota State would claw their way back into this one, led behind their point guard, Ryan Brugman. He'd have himself a game with 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Minnesota State will go on to face the winner of this one. Bearcats taking on the defending national champions, Augustana. And this one, Augustana would be led by their point guard. Once again, it would be a battle of the point guards with Pitts ultimately being the winner, dishing out dimes. Right there to Anthony Woods down below. All game, the Bearcats would dominate and easily move on to the final here. Pitts driving, kicks to Welty. Welty, the freshman, having himself a huge game. Everyone seemed to step up in this one. Shots falling compared to Upper Iowa game where a lot of shots just did not want to go. Pitts there making some moves, finding an open man in Schneider. He was on fire all game long. The Bearcat crowd loving it in Bearcat Arena. Bearcats would close this one out, winning final 74-53. Following a tightly contested ball game in the first game of 2, the Bearcats went on to win that second round, and they advanced, taking on Southwest Minnesota State in the final of this Central Regional Tournament. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned when we come back. I talk with Jonathan Baker, the head play-by-play guy for the entire tournament, about what he saw from these teams and what we can expect in the final. Stay tuned. You're watching Bearcat Update. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning back into Bearcat Update here from Bearcat Arena following the Central Regional Tournament. I'm here with Jonathan Baker, and we're going to take a look first at some of the teams that we've seen in this tournament. Also, I forgot to mention JB was the play-by-play for all the games of the tournament, the voice of the NCAA Central Regional. So JB, let's talk about maybe first some of the teams that you saw. Who really impressed you? And let's just go through the first round overall. We had in the first game East Central versus the Dragons, and East Central would move on. What did you see from those teams? And that was a very talented offensive team.
Yeah, I saw scores in that game. Both teams averaging over 80 points a season for the season. And Minnesota State Moorhead was led by a point guard by the name of Taylor Kretschmann, who ended up putting up over 30 points that game. And he was quickly combated by East Central's Braxton Reeves, who we saw in the second round really show up too for them, which was really big. We saw an injury to Allie Hudgens, which really hurt for the Tigers. Obviously moving to the second round, we really saw that hurt them. But as far as those two teams are concerned, it was really one player really leading the charge.
And then we saw that injury really did hurt the Tigers. If we go into the second round where they were going to face off against the Mustangs, the number 2 seed, the Southwest Minnesota State Mustangs, a team who they had a tough first round, but they kind of handled it well. They had some adversity. Shots weren't falling. And do you think that injury, though, to East Central's big man down low really, like they suffered because of that?
Absolutely. He was a starter. K.D. Moore filled in for him, which K.D. Moore was tremendous. He had a double-double, 17 rebounds, over 20 points. So he did his job. He's not a normal sixth man. They play him as if he was a starter. But Allie Hudgens is such an inside presence for them that they normally play him and K.D. Moore together, and they really do a really great job of filling the paint for the East Central Tigers. So Braxton Reeves didn't really have that alliance on him defensively to help him on the offensive end, and I think that's what ultimately hurt, and Southwest Minnesota State took advantage of it.
Yeah, that definitely did hurt them. I mean, they were playing so well. They were leading in the semifinal game over the Mustangs, but just kind of Mustangs, like I would say they were the better coached team, and they just pulled it out.
There was a period there where the East Central Tigers were up 6. 2 possessions in a row, Southwest Minnesota State was able to go down and hit a 3. So in 2 possessions, they immediately tied the game back up, and since then, East Central was just not able to come back from that. And credit Southwest Minnesota State because they took that momentum and it carried them to the end of the game.
Yeah, we saw a lot of similar things like that in this tournament now that we go to the other side of the first round. Some very athletic teams and some very well-coached teams. And if we first touch on Augustana, very well-coached team, they took on the Bull Weevils Arkansas Tech, and that was a very athletic team. And so that game, let's talk about that one first before we get to our Bearcats in the first round.
Yeah, it's fun when the Central Region takes all these conferences, puts them together. You got a team like Arkansas Monticello from the Great American Conference, all the way from Minnesota, Northern Sun Conference. They played them really tough. Augustana, defending champions, as we know, as they beat Northwest last year to get to that spot in the Elite 8. They were the more experienced team, and you could tell that. They had just been there. They'd done that before. Arkansas Monticello, just very young. But it was a great your typical 4-5 seed, normally your best matchup of the first round, and that's what it ended up being.
And then on the Bearcat side, we saw a game that really, I don't think anyone really expected. We thought it would be close, but just shots weren't falling for the Bearcats, as we already covered against Upper Iowa earlier in the show. But then they really started hitting their shots against Augustana in that semifinal game, and really, I didn't expect them to win by 21 as they did. Like, did you, sitting there watching that game, what was going through your mind as how well the Bearcats were playing?
Very nervous heading into the game because seeing Augustana play against Arkansas Monticello, they were not missing a beat. They came into the playoffs, they were ready to go. You knew they were experienced.
They looked like last year's team.
And Northwest was not that way, and the players will tell you that in the press conference. They said it was very hard to get a rhythm that first game because of all the pressure of playing at home in front of these fans. And give a lot of credit to Upper Iowa. They took advantage of that. They hit the shots that they needed to keep
one
it.
Big
yeah,
one in
one
particular.
big one to send it to overtime. But you saw Northwest settle down this game.
Yeah.
It's Saturday's game against Augustana. They just really settled down, played their game offensively, allowed Justin Pitts to move in the paint, kick it out to Schneider. Schneider was hitting some contested threes tonight, just not open threes. I think that played a big part.
Yeah, the team, and there were a lot of big boy rebounds, as I like to call them, down with Mosby, Chris, and even Welty getting in on the action. He had a lot of minutes for the young freshman.
Only one offensive rebound for Augustana that game, and they do not usually do that. They're usually a force on the board.
Very tall
so
team, too.
Definitely credit those big guys for the Bearcats.
All right, so real quick, before we got to go to break, let's preview this game coming up on the championship in the final. What are we going to see in this one as they're taking on a very talented Mustang team But do you think the Bearcats, I mean, they look good. As they split the season series, the Mustangs did with Augustana already this year, and the Bearcats just handled them on Sunday.
What impresses me about Northwest is their ability to speed up the game and successfully do that, and also to play slow, and they don't miss a beat. You know, they can change the pace of the game. And Southwest Minnesota State, they love to slow the game down. They're still averaging over 80 points per game. They slowed the game down. They used the entire shot clock, and they hit high percentage shots, always finding the open man. Northwest can do that if they have to. They can play slow. Justin Pitts obviously likes to get out in transition and find his shooters. But if Southwest Minnesota State wants to slow it down, it doesn't necessarily favor them against Northwest.
All right, so real quick, let's get a prediction for this final coming up. Do your Bearcats finally get over the hump, and after 3 straight years of reaching this regional final, do they take on the victory?
I think what you'll see is Augustana was the best team in this regional, other than Northwest. I think that's how well Northwest played Saturday against Augustana. So I do expect them to come out against Southwest Minnesota State. They've been hot as of late. They win the NSIC tournament. But I think ultimately Northwest, with this crowd, obviously it's a big boost for them. They're going to come out, probably win by 10, 15 points is what I think it'll come out to be.
Well, let's sure hope so. We'll have to see what's going to happen there on Tuesday. Thank you so much for being on, Jonathan. Guys, we're going to take a quick break here on Bearcat Update, but stay tuned. We've got more action still to come. You're watching Bearcat Update here on KNWT Channel 8. Welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Tim Hanna. We're going to take a quick step back from basketball and the NCAA Division II Central Regional Tournament and take a look at some outdoor sports with our in-house hunting expert, Cody Cooper, as he takes a look at hunting antlers, not animals, on this week as he looks at shed hunting. Cody.
Hey guys, I'm Corey. We're up here on my family's farm. Got myself and 7 others. We're just doing some shed hunting. It's March 4th. Haven't really been out at all this year. We were out last weekend for about half an hour, picked up like 10 or so. But for the most part, everything's pretty fresh. Not really sure how many of the deer have dropped their antlers, but with it being March, we would assume at least 50 or 60%. So there's definitely some antlers on the ground here. My older brother actually just picked up one behind us about 5 minutes ago. So we're off to a pretty good start here. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, probably walk right until sunset, so we got about 12 hours of walking ahead of us. So we'll get hoofing here and hopefully pick up a decent amount of sheds. Yeah, isn't that thing weird? Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Well, we just got done walking this little waterway here. It's kind of a series of 2 or 3 ponds here. It's a pretty good area for these deer to travel from a chunk of woods over here and a chunk of woods over here. So as of right now, I think we're at 16, and really a pretty good little walk through here. There was a couple good sheds, good 8-pointers, and one little one, but can't always find the big ones. So we're gonna jump back in the mule and head to the other side of the farm and see if we can meet up with the other guys, and hopefully they found a couple.
Well, it's Sunday, March 5th. We're kind of wrapping up the weekend shed hunt here. Had a pretty good weekend. Yesterday started off relatively slow. We had found, I think, 7 antlers before lunch, and most of the walking had been done in the timber up to that point. Went in and grabbed a quick lunch, and then we kind of changed up our game plan. Well, my brothers jumped in the back of this one, and then me, Preston, and Cody were in the back of the Polaris. I was driving. They were kind of up high, and we're able to get a decent vantage point driving through all this CRP. I think we picked up, between the 2 of us, 8 antlers, and that was within, I'd say, 45 minutes to an hour. Kind of slowed down after that, but we ended the first day with, I think, 16. And then this morning we hit a different farm that's about 20 minutes west of here. Picked up, I think, 5 antlers. Cody found 3, Preston found 2, I think, and then a couple deadheads. I think we ended the weekend in the mid-20s. For a day and a half of walking, you really can't ask for a whole lot more than that. So I guess a little reasoning behind why we would decide to walk like 10 or 15 miles in a weekend like we've done. There's a lot of benefits from shed hunting for us deer hunters. Number one, we just learn a lot about the certain property that you're hunting, whether it's your own farm, public land, whatever it may be, just getting out and scouting, finding sign, figuring out those stand locations and your entry and exit points for the next hunting season. That's one of the main keys, even if you aren't finding antlers. And then if you're lucky enough to find some antlers, you can kind of build a history with some deer. I know 3 of the bucks that we shot this season, we had shed antlers from that we found last year. So it's kind of cool. You can see how much growth the deer has from year to year. So it's just fun to get out and put some miles on the boots and kind of catch up with some friends and get out with your family. And it's a really good time. You definitely don't have to be a hunter to get out and enjoy the shed hunting part of it.
Thanks, Cody, for that look at shed hunting. Now, the Northwest women's softball team and men's baseball team were both in action this past weekend as the women swept Lincoln Tigers earlier in the week, but then their game against Lindenwood was postponed on Saturday. The men's team would win 1 of 3 against Washburn, losing in a doubleheader on Saturday. They'll be back in action against William Jewell Wednesday and then go down to Kansas City to take on Rockhurst Saturday and Sunday. As for the girls team, they will be taking on Missouri Western Tuesday and then go to University of Minnesota Duluth in St. Joseph to take them on Saturday. Now that's all the time we have here for Bearcat Update. Thanks for tuning in for this special edition from the Central Regional Tournament here in Bearcat Arena. Be sure to check us out Wednesday and Thursday for an updated show to see how we did against Southwest Minnesota State in the final. For Tim Hanna and the rest of my crew signing off, be sure to follow us on Twitter at BearcatUpdate_8 and on Facebook at Bearcat Update. Also, check out any past shows on YouTube at KNWT 8 and catch us every Monday through Thursday at 6 o'clock right here on Channel 8.